Chapter 24. "It's called fucking, Annecy," Ames said, casually rolling off of me. I just properly fucked my fated mate for the first time, and it was amazing. You should try it sometime. His blatant honesty, paired with the obvious note of pride in his voice, dissolved any shame I might have felt at being caught. I was his, and he gave zero fucks who knew it. A grin blossomed over my face. It's true. I felt just how true it was in my liquid bones and my twirling heart. The hungry, almost filthy look he gave me as he rose from the bed, stark naked and unapologetic about it, thrilled my senses all the way down to my curled toes. Annecy blushed and looked away. I heard screaming. We like it loud. Ames scooped down to pick up his clothes. Sorry to worry you, though, I added. My attention snagged by Ames's glorious body. If you're caught in here, Ames, I can't imagine the trouble you'll be in, Annecy told him without looking. I, on the other hand, openly ogled him, trying to memorize all of his tattoos. One large wolf took up much of his right bicep, sandy gray and similar looking to him, but also different. On his left arm, a huge white wolf prowled. His dad's, I realized when I saw the dates below them inked in an elegant scrawl. His biological dad and his adoptive alpha dad. Both of them dead. It wasn't fair to have lost both of them. My chest ached for him. He had more tattoos, of course, but he dressed too quickly for me to really study them. I won't tell if you won't, Annecy. Once he finished buttoning up his tux jacket and looked put back together again, other than the missing top button on his shirt, he strode toward the door and looked back to give me a wink. See you soon, little mate. Somehow those words brought back my smile and broadened it until it felt like it would swallow my whole face. I already missed him. I already looked forward to seeing him again. Annecy locked the door behind him and then whirled on me. Harlow, she hissed. Fated mates? I don't really understand it either, but I know it's the truth. I scooted higher against the pillows and clutched the sheet around my chest. We're cosmically connected, a human and a wolf. She wrung her hands together and dropped onto the bed next to me. But what about Stride? What about the man I loathed? The man who'd forced me to dance with him at the club? The man who'd shoved me into my room earlier while loudly broadcasting his horrifying intentions? The man I hopefully didn't have to marry? That Stride? What about him? I asked as calmly as I could, even as my hands balled into fists. She gasped as though I'd struck her. Harlow! Whatever she was going to say, she seemed to change her mind about it. I'll go draw you a bath. We have to get you ready for this evening. Almost mechanically, she rose from the bed and crossed the room. I'd put her in a messy situation, and I knew that, but how could she not be bothered by a wedding competition I never signed up for? She'd been brainwashed out of this century. I wanted to hug her so tightly that she'd pop back into the current century and live in it with me. As friends, as sisters. After I bathed, I dressed in bridal white. Obviously not by choice. It's custom for the final evening, Annecy assured me, and I fought the urge to barf all over the place. It wasn't bad, though. Annecy had chosen an elegant white lacy pantsuit, trimmed in white sequins with a high collar, and a floor-length cape. Annecy did her fierce, smoky eyes on me again, this time including wings made of diamond jewels, and pulled my hair back in a slicked ponytail. The end result was a power look that screamed sophistication. "How do you feel?" she asked, fluttering and tucking like she always did. "Terrified, sick to my stomach, nervous," I admitted, looking at her pretty reflection in the mirror. "Every negative human emotion possible." She smiled, her green eyes sparkling. "Everything will be okay." "Do you really believe that?" I asked. "I don't love Stride, Annecy." She averted her gaze, her smile fading, and I simply nodded. It didn't matter if I loved him or not. "I'll go find your shoes," she muttered, and rose to enter the closet. When she disappeared, I flicked my gaze to the bedside table. Should I take the steak knife for tonight? Just in case? I rose to retrieve it, and next to it in the drawer lay a blank envelope that hadn't been there before. Glancing over my shoulder at the closet, I ripped it open. "Moon chaser. Back door by the kitchen. 5 minutes before 8. Leave before ceremony. With love." My skin flushed with hope, while my mind raced with questions. Moon chaser? Only my mom called me that. Was she here? Somehow. Would she be outside waiting with open arms? My eyes filled with tears as I reread the letter over and over. Who'd left this for me? Surely not Annecy. Wouldn't she just tell me if that's what she wanted me to do? But if it wasn't her, then who? Ames? But no, he'd just tell me too. Had Mom sneaked in here? Or was this all a trap to make me think it was her? Was someone playing a cruel trick so I'd leave, only to be caught and killed? I dropped the letter in the garbage can, making sure to bury it underneath everything else. I wouldn't mention it to Annecy. I had to trust that whoever left the message was looking out for my best interest. I should heed the warning and get out of here. There would be a lot of commotion in the mansion while everyone was getting ready for the final evening, so I could probably slip out of the ballroom without being noticed and head to the kitchen. 5 minutes to 8, the note had read. It was 7:47 now. "Here they are," Annecy announced, reappearing from the closet with a pair of white, strappy heels. Faster than I ever had before, I stepped into them and hurried out the door. "I'm ready." Annecy looked at me curiously while chatting away as we strode down the hall, but I didn't hear a word over the roar of my heartbeat. My mom. She was here. I couldn't get to her fast enough. We swept down the stairs and into the ballroom, and I was already racing away from Annecy when she called, "Good luck." It vaguely registered how transformed the ballroom looked as I weaved in and out of wolf shifters dressed to the nines on my way to the narrow, dark hallway on the other side. The room glittered and glowed with thousands of lit candles in the numerous chandeliers. Gold dripped from elegant tablecloths, the chairs, the stage, and the curtain behind it. Even the cutlery and glasses on the tables were carved in ornate gilded designs. The waiters wore penguin suits trimmed in gold with matching cufflinks as they served up sparkly golden champagne. Everything looked more important tonight, more elaborate and weighted with tradition and meaning. I sped my steps, almost to the hallway. Once there, I sprinted to the door at the end and plowed through it. Another hall intersected the one I was in, and across from me stood the doorway to the kitchen. I rushed inside, dodging chefs with tall white hats and tense expressions on their faces while they chopped or flung ingredients into boiling pots. Not eyeball soup. It smelled too savory and good to be eyeball soup. Past the chefs on the other side of the kitchen stood a partly open door. A warm breeze wafted inside, scented with pine trees that coated my tongue when I inhaled. A taste of freedom. Almost there. My eyes watered. A sob hitched its way up my throat. My mom would be on the other side of that door, waiting for me, her perfect smile on her face. I needed to apologize, to tell her I loved her, to tell her I would never be able to thank her enough for rescuing me. The door suddenly popped open, and two burly men in suits barreled inside. I spun to the side, behind the open door and out of their way, gripping the edge so tightly my knuckles ached. Who were they? Not friends of my mom. They hadn't even spared me a second glance. I peered around the open door and beyond it. Nothing but the full wolf moon's crowning glow upon acres and acres of trees. Not a car with my mom inside, waving at me to hurry. Nothing. Was I too early? Too late? Harlow, what are you doing? A sharp voice snapped. I tore my eyes away from my one chance at freedom, to see Josephine rushing toward me. My heart sank down to my toes and stayed there, defeated. I was just... You need to be at the closing ceremony. It's about to start. She wrapped her arm around my shoulder and ushered me out of the kitchen, away from my mom or a cruel, twisted joke. I wasn't sure, but the sob that had hung in my chest finally broke free. There. Josephine patted my back hard as though to pound the heartbreak out of me. It'll all be over soon. That's what I was afraid of. Dread scraped down my back like a wolf's claws. She walked me into the narrow hallway off the ballroom where Jenny and Sloane were already waiting. They were both dressed in gorgeous gowns and smiling happily, except when they saw me. Haven't you given up by now, Harlow? Sloane snorted. You don't honestly think he's going to choose you, do you? It's absolutely laughable that you keep trying. I swallowed down my disappointment and offered her a sticky, sweet grin. Don't forget that I beat your ass and sent you home, okay? The only reason you're even here is because Olivia lost her mind. Don't worry, though. I'll keep reminding you since you can't seem to remember jack shit. She glared at me, but she shut her mouth. Sometimes even she had moments of brilliance, I guess. Josephine, who had been ignoring us this whole time, her attention glued to the ballroom, hissed at us. Okay, ladies, it's time for you to go out there and shine. You're about to be announced. Ladies and gentlemen, a female voice said, and I thought it was the same blonde hostess who had introduced us. Welcome to the final night of the Full Moon Games. The crowd cheered. Panic snapped my veins into tightropes. I let Jenny and Sloane go out ahead of me while I could hardly draw a single breath. Stride made his way up to the stage to join the hostess, and my stomach roiled at just the sight of him. I couldn't marry that man. I wouldn't. The three final contestants stepped up onto the stage with Stride and the hostess. She was introducing us yet again, only by name this time, and telling everyone how great we'd competed even though she hadn't been here for a single event the entire week. I spotted Ames on the other side of the room next to his mom, looking a little green, like he might be sick. My heart ached for him. He was the one I wanted, not Stride. My body knew who my mate had been all along, even before I did, humming every time he was near me. What was the point of being fated mates if we couldn't have a future together? Hello, everyone. Welcome. Stride's voice over the podium's mic ripped me back into reality. Thank you all for being here on this special day. I'm excited to start this new chapter in my life and to have an amazing woman by my side. The past week has been challenging, but in a good way. I had the opportunity to meet some wonderful women during the competition, and only the best made it to the end. The room exploded in applause, and Stride waited for it to stop before he continued. The future of my pack will be stronger because of my union with a wife. We can move forward with me as the alpha to create a powerful, untouchable pack. We will be indestructible. It's always been important to me to continue my uncle's legacy. He was a great alpha, a true leader, one who brought the pack to abundant success. I hope that I am half the leader he was. He went silent for a moment, contemplative as he stared down at the podium as though overcome with emotion. But I knew better than most that he didn't feel regular emotions. I will be following in his footsteps and matching his energy with the pack, he finally continued. I look forward to leading you all and making us the strongest we can be. Again, with the clapping. How many here really knew Stride's true colors? He could sure put on a show, looking dashing and debonair, but there was also something dark and sinister brewing just underneath. The 3 girls who are left were all strong contestants. Truly perfection in my eyes. Each one of them has amazing qualities, and it wasn't an easy decision for me to make. But at the end of the day, only one will not only benefit me, but will make the pack even stronger. The woman I chose is bright and beautiful. She's intelligent and strong-willed. She has no problem speaking her mind, and I think that's important to keep me in line. Several people in the crowd chuckled. I glanced over at Sloane, who had a huge grin on her face. She truly believed that Stride was going to choose her. I hoped she was right. They were made for each other. So, without further ado, I want to present my future bride. Stride looked over at the 3 of us, all of him photoshopped, including his smile. Miss Harlow Vale. Chapter 25. A collective gasp rang around the ballroom. Behind me, Jenny began to cry, and Sloane's murderous rage drilled into the side of my skull. All I could do was stare at Stride in disbelief, in horror. Me. Impossibly, he'd chosen me as his wife. Stride continued to rave about me while I blinked out at the crowd as if they could help me. Connolly, sitting at the table right in front of the stage, looked flabbergasted and bright red with rage. It had been Sloane all along that he wanted Stride to choose, and Stride had obviously gone against his wishes. Why would he do such a thing? It wasn't like he loved me. Why not take Sloane as his bride? No! The shout echoed around the room, instantly silencing the excited buzzing. It had come from Ames. He was charging toward the stage, his blue eyes ablaze with fiery hatred. I won't let you do this, Stride, he yelled. Harlow is mine. The only reason you chose her is to get back at me. I sucked in a shaky breath as my heart clenched painfully. Get back at Ames for what? What was he talking about? The only reason you chose her as a contestant in the first place, Ames continued furiously, drawing closer to the stage, is because I showed the slightest bit of interest, and you just couldn't handle that, could you? I'm not allowed to be happy, am I? Stride burned him to cinders with his glare. Ferdinand, deal with him. Take him to his room. Ferdinand, dressed in a too tight tux to fit his Viking frame, immediately started toward Ames. "Choose someone else, Stride," Ames shouted. "I'll do anything if you choose anyone but Harlow. Anything." My chest swelled with all that he was risking. His reputation, his standing in the pack, all of it for me. A human, an outsider. His fated mate. He was almost to the stage, and Ferdinand was almost to Ames. He met my eyes, and everything written in their blue depths broke my heart into pieces. Ferdinand grabbed him by the collar and hauled him toward the double doors. Ames fought and kicked and wrestled for release, so Ferdinand banded his thick arms around his chest and dragged my fated mate away faster. "Harlow, please," Ames yelled. "I never meant for this to happen. Please, Harlow." The doors slammed behind them. I choked on a sob as the sudden silence rang between my ears. "When she comes back in here," Stride said, through gritted teeth to the crowd, pointing at me, "she will have my mark on her neck." Then he turned, roughly snatched my hand, and dragged me off the stage toward the same doors Ames and Ferdinand had gone through. What mark? The fangs bite, like on the blonde hostess's neck? I looked to her in silent question, and a crack in her smooth veneer revealed sorrow. Tears streaked down my face. I wasn't sure where he was taking me, but I didn't want to be alone with him. I didn't want his stupid mark on my neck. I struggled, trying to get my hands free out of his, digging my heels, screaming at the top of my lungs, "Somebody help me!" Nobody did. They just watched as though this was all part of the show, except for Ames's mom, who stood next to Connolly, her mouth trembling and tears slipping down her cheeks. Stride responded by wrapping his arms around me, giving me no chance to break free, and spitting a warning into my ear. "Swear to God, if you don't stop, I will kill every person you love the most." I froze, despising him even more. "You're a disgusting animal." He chuckled humorlessly, continuing to drag me toward the door. "No, Harlow, I'm your fiancé." Outside the ballroom, he released one arm from around me in order to slam the doors. I took that opportunity to slap him hard across the face. "I wouldn't marry you if my life depended on it." A dark laugh escaped him, and he grabbed me by the neck and yanked me down a hallway toward a room I'd never been in before. A room without bars on the windows. After he threw me inside, he locked the door behind us with a long skeleton key. "Strip, Harlow," he demanded, turning and pocketing the key. As well as my handprint, he had a calm and collected look on his face, which disturbed me more than his anger. "Like hell," I fired back, stepping toward the windows behind me. He matched my speed step for step and began to unbutton his tux jacket. "It'll be so much easier for you if you do." "I get whatever I want, Harlow. The alpha rules all." "Why would you want to marry someone who doesn't want to marry you?" I yelled, continuing backward to the window. "Why are you trying to get back at Ames?" "Think about all that I'm offering you by choosing you. Our mating will happen, Harlow. We won't leave here until it does. We will return to my pack with my mark on your neck. The mark will show everyone, even Ames, that you are my future bride." He dropped his tux jacket and loosened his bow tie. I stared at him in disgust. "All of this because you're out to get Ames? You don't care that I don't want anything to do with you?" I couldn't even begin to imagine what my future would be like with Stride. Actually, I could. It would be like Jessa, stoned and drunk out of my mind to avoid feeling anything. What kind of life was that? I was almost to the window. If I couldn't get it open, I'd smash my way through the glass. "You'll like it," he said, continuing his advance. "Trust me." "Fuck you." I turned and ran for the window. I didn't get very far. He grabbed me by the neck from behind and hauled me up against him so my back was pressed to his front. He wrenched my head sideways and crushed his mouth against mine. No, we are not doing this. When he forced his tongue inside, I bit down on it hard. He yanked away, his bruising grip on my neck digging in painfully and be happening. Behind him, the giant wolf moon floated on a ribbon of lacy clouds. The arched, postage stamp-sized window framed its silvery glow, as perfect as an image on a postcard. Something within me reached for it, while I fought and thrashed and kicked beneath Stride. A force scratched toward it from just behind my belly button, as if trying to escape. Buzzing and tingling shocked through me like nothing I'd felt before. The sensation intensified, rattling my spine and ribs like a beast locked in a cage. A white light burst out of me, like before with Sloane, but 10 times as powerful. The light vaguely looked like a bright white wolf chasing the moon. Stride flew off of me and smashed into the opposite wall. All the windows shattered in an explosive gale. Somehow, from somewhere, a wolf growled, a menacing threat that coated my arms with goosebumps. Not Stride, who lay slumped on the floor. Then only silence, other than the sound of my rough gasps. "Stride?" I whispered, hiking up my pants again. He wasn't moving. Had I killed him with whatever the hell I'd done? I had done that. Me, but how? Why was I attacking wolf shifters? Something slammed into the room's door, hard enough to make it pop open, making me leap into the air. Connolly and a host of guards surged inside and then immediately stopped when they saw the state of the room. It was only then that I realized I was clenching tattered bits of the mattress and ripped sheets and blankets in my fists. The bed I sat on had been destroyed with deep gouges. 5 long, jagged crevices marked the length of the walls, from the bed to the broken windows, where the wolf moon bled its silvery light onto the alpha on the floor. Connolly rushed to him and checked for a pulse. "He's alive," he said with a sigh of relief. How unfortunate. When I didn't say a word, Connolly swiveled an accusatory glare toward me. "What did you do?" he hissed. "I didn't do shit," I shot back, even though that was obviously a lie. "He attacked me." He stood to his full height, vibrating with rage, and roared, "He's the alpha." "Then you marry him." Flames lit through my body like a quickly burning fuse. I moved to stand, but Connolly's guards flashed their hands to guns at their waists, like I was some kind of unknown threat. Which I was. "Arrest her." Connolly lifted his trembling arm to point at me, spittle flying. "She attacked the alpha." "It was self-defense," I shouted, but no one was listening to me. The guards surrounded me, slow and cautious, like the beast within me would lash out at them too. One of them yanked my arms behind my back and slipped handcuffs around my wrists. "You can't do this," I fumed, but nobody wanted to hear it. They hauled me toward the door and then shoved me down the ballroom hall, past the now open double doors where everyone inside could see me. I ignored their gaping stares and whispers. Thundering footsteps raced down the grand staircase. Ames with his tux in disarray and blood dribbling from a cut on his lip to his collar. Broken handcuffs dangled from one wrist. He stopped when he saw me surrounded by guards. "Harlow, what?" "I didn't do anything." But that was a lie. Because I did. I just didn't know how. From behind Ames, Annecy staggered onto the steps, her beautiful features struck with shock and something else as she watched me being paraded past. That something else sure looked like suspicion. She carried a blood-soaked, sparkly scarf in one hand and a dripping plastic bag in the other. My stomach plummeted at the sight, at the items I'd hidden in the back of my toilet. "Harlow, did you—" Annecy began and then swallowed thickly. "Did you hurt Kat?" Ames looked back at her, stiffened, and then slowly turned to face me again. He'd never looked at me like that, with doubt. Seeing it caved in my chest. "No, I didn't. I swear I didn't," I insisted and craned my neck back to see if she or Ames believed me. But the guards were marching me past too quickly. "I'm telling you the truth." They didn't answer. Didn't chase after me either to demand my release or come to my defense. The only two people I trusted had turned their backs on me because they thought I'd betrayed their pack. And my mom, who'd come to rescue me, but hadn't. I was alone, completely and truly alone. The guards led me through doors that required keys, down more halls and staircases I'd never seen before, deeper and deeper into the mansion, toward a dungeon, I realized, when the air turned colder and the stone walls dripped with slimy moisture to the filthy floor below. One loud turn of a key later, and I was all alone inside an iron cage with my fury and the mysterious beast inside me. This has been Wolf Moon Magic, a Wolf Shifter Fated Mates competition romance. Full Moon Games Book 1. Written by Lindsey R. Loucks. Narrated by Courtney Connor. Copyright 2023 by Lindsey R. Loucks. Production copyright by Lindsey R. Loucks.